Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Q podcast. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about Godzilla vs. Kong, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and Death Proof. Peter, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about movies.
And as always, I'm Peyton.
I'm Peter.
All right, we're going to get right into it, and we're going to start with Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm going to start off by saying this was a lot better than I expected it to be. I expected it to be total garbage, um, or just really, really average, at least entertainment wise, because that's how the other American Godzillas have kind of been for me, from either terrible to, it's okay, I guess. But this one, I had a lot of dumb fun. I watched it 3 times. Peter, you only watched it once, I'm pretty sure, but
Yeah.
I had a lot of opportunities to watch it with other people because they wanted to watch it, and I was like, I'm not doing anything else, so I guess I'll just watch it. But yeah. How do you feel? Would you say you're in the same ballpark?
Yeah, it's definitely dumb fun. I mean, you really have to be willing to overlook actually I don't even know how much time the human side stories take up, but you have to be
They
willing to
go
overlook those.
e- every time I watched it, they feel like they went faster and faster. Not as much with the
There's
Godzilla's
definitely a
human
lot more
subplot.
fighting.
Yeah, it's and unlike the other American Godzillas, it doesn't cut during the fight to the humans very much, and when
Yeah.
it does, it's like key plot things, like when Godzilla is they go for the button to release God or not Godzilla, King Kong from the ship, which I guess we should say from here, spoilers if you care about those for King Kong versus Godzilla. But yeah, he when he hits the button, that's about it for cutting in that fight specifically. But they don't do a whole lot of cutting to the human characters, which is great. They really just let you see the really good CGI on Kong and Godzilla as they fight. Which another thing to it is how well directed all the action is. I was surprised. I really expected it to be, pretty mundane, because I kind of felt that way in King of Monsters, where the fights weren't as exciting as I thought they should be for a Godzilla movie. But this really delivered in the fight department. Human subplots, as always, though, were not great. But I was actually surprised by the Kong subplot. Like
I
the
I see. I don't get that. I don't get how people like anything about Kong. I
well,
don't
no, no, no.
get it.
It's not about Kong himself as much. It's his human subplot was a lot better than expected. And you mentioned this when we were watching it together. You mentioned that you thought the deaf girl who can communicate with Kong was really expressive, and I found her to be really, really expressive myself as well. She was actually a very surprisingly good actor, at least
Yeah.
emotive wise.
For what she was given to do, which isn't too difficult, she did it really well.
Yeah. Which, I mean, most of the human characters aren't given much to do. I mean, the Godzilla human subplot is literally just there to introduce Mechagodzilla. That's its only purpose. And it's really bad. It's horrible. I hate those scenes. Those scenes bring down the rest of the movie for me. Um, Honestly, if they cut out those scenes, I feel like I would have liked the movie a lot more. But they gotta introduce Mechagodzilla some way, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess,
They have to do fan service.
yeah, eh, which is unfortunate. But I did like the fight with Mechagodzilla. I liked that a lot. It was very exciting, and it wasn't my favorite fight. I think my favorite fight was the first fight between Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah, that was somewhat creative.
I think the set piece and
That
how
definitely
well it
brings
was
it back
directed.
to classic Godzilla, bringing
Yes,
it back
yes,
to the water. Godzilla kind of just always returned to the water in the original films. Um,
which is great.
yeah,
You know.
Abira, one of the older ones, pretty much just takes place in the water. Similar sort of risk for Godzilla. He gets kind of trapped underwater with Abira, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Although he's not exactly in danger of drowning in this film.
Yeah,
he's kind
King
of trying to do
Kong.
that to Kong.
Yeah, Kong here is the one who is in trouble when getting almost drowned, which I found how they directed the fact that like Godzilla can breathe underwater, but King Kong can't. They use that really well to and surprisingly well to create suspense.
Yeah.
Another thing I
He
really
feels
liked,
so threatening, dude.
yeah, Godzilla is.
he he felt like the real apex predator here, like at every moment.
Oh yeah,
He was
he
so
felt
like soulless throughout.
yeah, he was genuinely. I don't want to say terrifying, but I felt kind of
It's a
a
little
small sense of
unsettling.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was on screen, and that's really great because like Shin Godzilla, which I've seen, and I'm assuming the original Godzilla do the same.
Yeah,
At least
well
from what I've
Shin
seen people talking about it.
Shin Godzilla gets a little goofy.
Shin Godzilla does get a little goofy, but I think it's really well directed, and
Yeah,
I
and
think
he can be
that
pretty
it's good at.
scary.
Yeah, I think it's really great at creating suspense when it needs to, and then being goofy. It doesn't ruin the tension in that movie. But back to the actual movie we're discussing. Um, Something else that I've seen only one other kind of channel talk about this, and that was Red Letter Media. But the color usage in the movie and the lighting is really great and surprisingly well done. Because the other Godzilla movies have been really dark. All the battles have taken place at night when it's really dark and there's a storm going on, so you can't really see everything. And I'm assuming that's to kind of hide the effects to make them look more realistic.
I don't know about that in King of the Monsters. That's definitely
Maybe not King
true
of the
of
Monsters.
2014.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. At King of the Monsters is less guilty of it, but there's plenty of fights that are in really dark settings and even in the rain,
Yeah.
and it kind of obfuscates the actual monsters. But in this, you can see them well, and even the fight that takes place at night in Hong Kong, the aesthetic of the neon lights really like gives a lot of energy to the fight and makes it feel, fun and creative and look good, which I can't really say for the other American Godzilla movies, that is.
I think
But
King of the Monsters is pretty eye catching, but it's kind of just like a soulless attempt at some
yeah,
creativity, which isn't there. It's really just let's have color themes for the monsters and locations. It's like, okay,
yeah,
cool.
but this movie, as much as it is a corporate product, it feels like people genuinely cared and were excited to make this movie.
Yeah,
They
no,
did.
that's for sure. I remember one of the big accounts on Twitter that was getting me excited was the composer who would bring
Mhm.
up how much he loves the original Godzilla like every day, and he would mention that he really wants to bring back the original score, which he did, but I was definitely really overwhelmed. Um, Regardless, there was definitely a lot of love put into that movie.
Yeah, it's definitely somewhat of a passion project for the people involved.
Yeah, I mean,
More so than the other Godzilla movies, it seems.
yeah,
American ones, of course. But yeah, I don't have much else to say on it other than I just really enjoyed myself during it. And I mean, watching it, I was surprised all three times I enjoyed myself either the same amount or more. And I did not expect that coming from this movie. I had very low expectations.
Yeah. I thought I'd like it cuz Godzilla. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I don't like you mentioned like the lighting and color usage. Eh, I'm indifferent cuz like I don't think I enjoyed any other aspect than seeing my cool lizard pal stomp around. Like and I
So,
don't know if there's anything I can seriously get out of the movie besides that.
oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely nothing uh deep
Yeah.
or especially creative about it, but I think what it does well, it does really well. Like and surprisingly so. And but you do really notice the weaker aspects,
Oh
especially
yeah.
human subplots, but luckily it's a lot less of that, and at least one of them is pretty serviceable. Like at least everybody actually has a set motivation and stuff. But I couldn't
Yeah.
remember a single one's name, so
Yeah.
or anything about them other than like, oh, this one was the King Kong subplot and this one was the Godzilla one.
Something I like that David Ehrlich pointed out, and he gave this a half star. He also is a fan of Godzilla generally, so that was a little surprising. I think
Yeah.
he just completely abhors that the new Hollywood films are such a bastardization of the originals, and that they just completely misunderstand what Godzilla is supposed to be. So, like, let's say you're trying to take it seriously. Okay, you need to put a lot of emphasis on the human characters. You need to show Godzilla less. It has to try to be somewhat more suspenseful as to seeing him. He has to feel massive. His presence is supposed to be foreboding. And if you're gonna go lighter, if it's just supposed to be dumb fun, you need to really embrace the campy side stories.
Yeah.
And the American movies try to like blend the two, where it's
Yeah,
supposed to be serious in the human stories, but it's supposed to be dumb fun in the fights, and it's like what?
they don't I don't think they really understand that you can't balance the two.
No. If it's
Like,
supposed to be dumb fun in one part, the whole movie has to be dumb fun, or it's just tonally inconsistent.
yeah, which is kind of a accusation I could lobby at like a lot of Hollywood blockbusters.
Oh yeah.
Just yeah, which I'll say if you like Hollywood blockbusters and enjoy them, even if it's just like you get dumb fun out of it, you'll love this movie. But if you're somebody who doesn't like blockbusters at all, yeah, you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
If you can't just come in with dumb fun, you're gonna have a bad time. But otherwise, I think you'll have a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
definitely don't think it's an amazing film or great.
I don't
It's
think
definitely
I would ever rewatch this outside of the context of us doing our Godzilla binge.
yeah,
Um,
I have to agree.
I think this would be not that it's shock value, but there's definitely like a first time watch value to this, where
Hmm.
you get to see all the fights happen, and you're like, oh, cool. Hey, that was unique. That was a cool fight. That value is
Yeah,
just gonna be gone the second time, and I don't think it's worth sitting through the story. So
yeah. I mean, it might have been for me just the atmosphere of where I watched him because I watched him with other people. This is definitely not an alone movie because
no,
you can just talk during the human subplots with whoever you're watching it with, and then pay attention to the fights. But yeah, no, this is not a great rewatch movie unless you're like watching it with another person. and you're
Or
just
like
going,
maybe you love it. I don't know.
oh yeah.
Maybe you thought Millie Bobby Brown was great. Who knows? That's
Yeah,
up to
maybe you
you.
did think she was great, but yeah, I at least liked it more than the Snyder Cut, which was the last blockbuster we talked about. Thank
True.
God I. But yeah, I gotta say my final rating on it is a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I I think Underwater Scene had me more excited for it, and I felt like it could have gone like anywhere. But
Mm,
yeah, like halfway through, I wasn't feeling it as much. I was feeling like a light three, and by the time I got to Mechagodzilla, I was like, they're just shoehorning in fan service. So, and like
mm.
a lot of people actually complain about the design of Mechagodzilla. I thought it was fine. I just didn't see a reason for him to be there other than a plot
Yeah,
device.
I think it's pretty much just like plot device, and let's use as many characters as we can since this is the last like exclusive American Godzilla, at least with the current contract Toho has. But yeah, I don't think we have any much more thoughts really to
Actually,
give.
I have one thing to say. Do you
Oh,
do you know anything about Adam Wingard, the director?
I remember looking at his filmography and remember I had watched one movie, but I never like watched the whole thing called The Guest, which was okay-ish, goodish for the parts I remember. I can't really remember it all that well, and it was pretty recent I watched it.
Dude,
So,
he just does like bad horror movies.
yeah, it's kind of a weird choice. I always find these movies tend to have really weird choices for the director.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. I don't know
All
why
right.
they would choose him, but
Speaking of directors,
oh
we
my,
will start with our
I
Tarantino
don't want to talk about Tarantino, man.
completion
I like
as
him, but I don't want to talk about him.
well, we kind of have to because we watched Kill Bill volumes 1 and 2, and we also watched Death Proof. But I think we should talk about Kill Bill
Let's,
volume
let's,
1.
let's get through. Let's get through the Kill Bills first.
Yeah, let's talk about Kill Bill. Um, I think we're both in agreement that Kill Bill volume 1 is a lot of fun.
Oh, it's great.
It's
It's a
it's
great
great.
movie.
It's super stylistic. It's
So many callbacks to just film in general. It's
yeah, and they don't feel super shoehorned. Some of them, like the random black and white during that one of the last fights in Volume 1, if you
yeah,
remember, that was really a strange choice and kind of had no reason to be there.
it's more like where it was cut in didn't really make a
Yeah.
ton of sense to me. There are things like that. Like Hero does that, and the like the mental fight. I don't think you've seen Hero, but
I haven't seen
there's
Hero.
this fight that the characters oh my god, I can't remember his name. Sky and
Hmm.
Nameless. They have a fight, and it's happening in their minds. It goes to black and white. It's great. It's a cool choice, especially since the rest of the film is really colorful. So like normally in that kind of sequence, you might make it like super stylistic, but they just went with black
Yeah.
and white. You would think like, all right, that would be like a similar way to do this fight scene,
Hmm.
but like it only cuts to black and white like halfway through.
Yeah, and there's no transition into it or out of it.
That
It
makes
just
any sense. It's bizarre.
yeah.
It's
It
just a jump to black and white. It's weird.
but the rest of the film is really great in
Yeah.
its sense of style. And it's I keep mentioning style. It's definitely not a style over substance movie either though. I
No.
like the substance. Like
And
I
there's
like the
not
plot.
there's not like a crazy narrative in terms of meaning or
Yeah.
anything.
It's very straightforward, but it has an engaging set up and an engaging
Yeah, I
character. Like
mean,
I like the characters a
yeah,
lot.
the premise is good enough. The characters have really fleshed out motivations, which is great.
Hmm. Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a lot more of an emotional impact to
mhm.
everything that's going on.
Even the side characters, like the guy who makes her sword,
Yeah,
yet even he has fleshed out motivations and feels like a real character that I really like. Like I think he's my favorite character in the movie.
yeah,
But you know, everybody gets a fleshed out motivation, and I think they all get enough screen time. Like the first woman she goes after, it's kind of fast, but it's not really in a bad way, in
it's a
my
good way
opinion.
to start the film, and it definitely sets
Yeah.
the tone. It's
Oh yeah.
serious, but it's also silly, and it can be funny. I mean,
That's it is a good example of balancing some
yeah.
silly moments with
I mean,
seriousness.
even if it's dark humor, Tarantino always he finds a way to fit it in,
Yeah, he's very good at that. He's very good at that.
and there's a bit of
Um,
tension there too. A classic,
yeah,
classic sort of funny but serious tension for him.
and even though which if people don't know this, but this is a good thing to know about the movie, is that really Kill Bill was supposed to be one movie, and Tarantino ended up splitting it into two after the studio told him he needed to split it into two. I like how Volume 1 ends. I think it ends really well, even though he didn't want it to end there. I think he found a really good way to end it. I think it's perfect, kind of get you engaged for the next one without leaving you feel like you didn't get enough. You
Yeah.
know, I think we got a good amount of content and engagement out of what we had, and I think it really sets up the next one well.
Mm-hmm. It definitely creates a lot of weight for the sequel.
Hmm. Which, speaking of the sequel, I guess we should just talk about them together, since with that context of that they were supposed to be one movie. I did not like two anywhere near as much, and I mean it's like a pretty weak three for me. And I feel like a lot of that is because it didn't get what made the first one great. It'll sometimes shine through the first one, what made it great, the style and the engagement, and the really well directed action, but it's so far and few between. I find myself I find the good moments are overshadowed by these long, boring sequences, which for the first like 50 minutes are all like exposition dumps. And a lot of it's exposition we either didn't need or exposition we already had that's like slightly fleshed out more.
Well,
We
I think I generally enjoy it. I think the writing is good enough. Its writing is definitely Tarantino's strong suit. Like you said,
yeah.
I don't really see how it was necessary. I don't see how explaining the plot even more really helps that much.
It kind of feels like to me that he added stuff to kind of get volume 2 to be as long or longer
Maybe
than volume
I don't
1.
know.
Because I don't know, and this would have been probably a good thing to kind of research, because it was supposed to be one movie, and I wonder if that stuff was added in after he was told he needed to make it into two movies or before. Because if it's before, then okay, then Kill Bill as a whole was not going to be that great of a, not as good as I liked it. Uh, but if it was added after, that makes a lot of sense that this would be kind of filler content. Because, you know, us seeing the more of the wedding kind of, for me at least, hurts the mystery around it.
Yeah,
And it feels really like it drags. It overstays its welcome so much.
I don't think. Here's my dilemma with that scene. So obviously a lot of the beginning just feels pointless.
Hmm.
Like the I don't even remember how long it drags on for, but all of all the parts of like the dress rehearsal were just
I
completely
think it
pointless
was.
to me.
I think that sequence specifically was 20 minutes,
Oh
about
my
20
gosh.
minutes,
I
which is like
I think it's
way too
interesting.
long.
Yeah. I think it's interesting in setting up her character a bit more as someone who was living a pretty normal life relatively, or at least she had normal
She was trying
intentions.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely overstays its welcome a bit. But I feel like the problem is that without it, the scene would have been like jarringly short, which just
Yeah.
kind of like makes me question like did it even need to be in there? I just don't know if there was a
Mhm.
right way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And after that, it starts to pick up a little more with the introduction of the kind of cowboy male assassin that was involved. Um, he's somewhat engaging. I don't love him. I don't think his performance was that great, which is kind of saddening to me because he was one of my favorite characters in my favorite Tarantino, Reservoir Dogs. But here, I just didn't feel he had the same amount of energy, even though this felt like a performance you give energy into. But as soon as that kind of ends with the flashback while she's, buried alive to when she was training with that guy,
Yeah.
um, I thought it was funny at first because he was goofy looking. It felt like it was clearly a reference to a movie called Journey to the West, which is really really funny. Um, it's just pure dumb fun, but I found that dragged on a lot and felt like a
Really?
lot of unnecessary exposition to me. I did not really enjoy it overall.
I just thought it was charming, honestly. I just enjoyed it.
I I didn't really get a lot of charm out of that. I just felt like it was mostly unnecessary and kind of just an exposition dump to be like, "Oh, well, this is why she's so good at fighting," which I kind of just already assumed she was good at fighting because they already established she was an assassin. You didn't
Yeah.
really have to give me that. Um, but yeah, once we get, I think the movie really starts to pick up though when she breaks out of the coffin and then the male assassin gets killed by one of the left female assassins, and they have their fight. That the film picks up more there, and that's like probably my favorite sequence of the whole movie is that fight
Yeah.
because it's so reminiscent of the first movie and the really great action that just is engaging and entertaining. But it kind of does then lose me again when we get to Bill's house. Like the reveal of her daughter's actually alive is somewhat engaging. And I like it a little bit, and I think it's good thematically, but overall, I just found Bill pretty disappointing considering how much he was built up.
Yeah.
He was definitely
I
not as
didn't care for his character at all.
he was definitely not as charismatic and energetic as they built him up to be, and I just found that most of his dialogue was either too mundane or it wasn't super engaging. Even this one that I expected to engage me a lot because it kind of irks me as a superhero fan when he goes on his little superhero rant and he completely butchers his interpretation of Superman. Even that wasn't super engaging to me, and I thought it was going to be because I had heard about that scene beforehand, and yet I just kind of let it pass by. And that kind of felt like a lot of the movie was this is kind of just passing by. I'm not really super into this, which is really disappointing because I was hoping it was going to be great. I had really high expectations coming out of the rewatch of Kill Bill 1, which I should give context. When we watched it, it was a rewatch for me. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and then a first watch for Peter. But I don't remember it as being as good as it was this time. The first one, that is. The second one I had never seen. That was the first watch. But yeah, I was really disappointed by Volume 2.
I don't get how people think that the slow pacing somehow adds to the experience. Well, that's true for a lot of films. I just I just don't understand how it
Yeah,
contributes.
this is not a movie that needs to be slow paced.
No.
Something I liked about the original was how fast paced it was. And then this comes to like a grinding halt compared to that. And it just does not suit the
It
tone or what the movie's trying to go for.
I get that it's less about the action, but it just feels like things are thrown in just to be longer. I
I
don't
also
A lot of the writing just didn't feel natural.
I also think it being less about the action hurts the film. Like, I get it. It the second is not just supposed to be an action movie, but I think it should have been more of an action movie. Like you can tell your drama plot in an action movie and it be fine. Kill Bill 1 did it. It did it. But Kill Bill Volume 2 is wants to focus more on the drama, but I'm not here for the drama as much. I found it engaging and it served as a really good vehicle for the action in the first, but it is not the thing that brings me in, and it's just not that good. You know, it especially and it's especially jarring when you do this in the second movie because the tone has already been established by the first. If you had done this in the first, I probably would have liked it maybe a little more than I did in seeing it in volume 2. But the first made it seem like it was going to be a completely different experience and shaped my expectations in a really different way. Would you say you would agree with that?
Yeah, I um I think juggling characters so much and giving a weirdly equal focus to both the side characters and the main characters was not choice, especially because there's a very different weight each character has. Now,
Yeah.
I would have appreciated this style more if it went into her character, but no,
Hmm.
focused on the other assassins a lot, and I just didn't get it.
And it didn't even do it how the first one, because the first one, really it gave time to the assassins, like with the assassin who is a yakuza boss.
Mm-hmm.
She got that little animated segment, really great, by the way. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved that whole sequence. That's the highlight of the first movie for me. But they didn't spend, you know 20 minutes on it. It was like an 8-minute sequence, not 20 minutes. And also I feel like the characters in the first one, at least the first two assassins, are more engaging than the last two, and even Bill himself. um and as well, they actually had each one of them had a fight scene with our main character, but the male assassin doesn't even get a fight scene. He gets a quick little segment where he outsmarts her, and then after she breaks out of his, bearing her alive, he's killed by the other assassin. We don't even get an actual fight scene,
Yeah.
which is kind of disappointing. You know, I really expected it to be each assassin goes one on one with her, and we get a cool fight scene that's different from the last. which is how Kill Bill 1 established that this was going to be, and then we just didn't get that. The movie, the first one really primed us for a different experience than what we got in Volume 2. And I think if the movies were connected as they were originally going to be, and they had the same exact content as both has, it would be really jarring. Because it'd be the craziest tonal shift.
Yeah. I think the weirdest change is the sort of editing style, which is still somewhat present in the second, but becomes a lot more minimalistic. It's just bizarre for a Tarantino film. His movies
Yeah,
jump around a lot. There's a lot of great editing techniques, really flashy stuff, but it's just gone from the second.
yeah.
And that's part
Now,
of why the style just feels completely gone.
yeah. Now that you mention it, that I do kind of notice where this does feel like one of his less um his style movies. You know, which is surprising because most of his movies keep that consistent style. The exceptions being like Reservoir Dogs and kind of our next movie, Death Proof, but not all the way. Um, and then this Volume 2, which is weird to me. That like a sequel to one of his other movies that is so reminiscent of his style and is very much the epitome of his style. The sequel is not at all. I found that very strange. It's a very jarring film.
Yeah.
That's kind of my piece on Kill Bill as a series. I think Kill Bill overall is kind of worth it, or I shouldn't say kind of worth it. It's definitely worth it to watch both of them. Kill Bill 1 is great, and I definitely think you should watch it. I would also say watch Kill Bill 2, but just be prepared for not the same experience. Overall, I think the series is a 3.5 out of 5. Kill Bill 1 is definitely a 4, and Kill Bill 2 is like a 3.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So now I think we'll conclude with another Tarantino movie, which this episode's very Tarantino, and that's kind of because we wanted to get Tarantino's filmography out of the way, because Kill Bill Volume 2 and Death Proof were the last movies in his filmography I needed to see before I watched everything that wasn't a short or like a collaboration with other directors. And then I think it was just the Kill Bills and Death Proof as well for you too, right?
Yeah. And then
Yeah, so
I want to give Hateful Eight a rewatch, but yeah.
yeah, I mean I want to also give it a rewatch, but I have seen it. So technically I have finished his filmography with
Mm.
Death Proof, which Death Proof for me going in I had very very low expectations. It's his
Yeah.
lowest rated on Letterboxd and nothing looked too crazy. It looked kind of I didn't even know what to expect really because I didn't know anything about the plot. I just kind of had seen some stills and saw the letterbox page, and that's about it. But I will say I was thoroughly surprised by it in
Oh yeah.
numerous ways. Um, Now, this is where we kind of disagree, is where I felt it was way too slow at the beginning. I get what it was doing was set up for, which don't go further on here if you're going to watch Death Proof because this will ruin the entire movie for you. But I get it was set up for when the stunt driver just goes full psycho and decides to start killing people with his car. But I felt like it dragged a lot, and a lot of it was unnecessary and trying to characterize characters that are just there to get run over in the first half, that is. I didn't really feel like those characters were compelling, really, anyways. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't really remember exactly. I remember we disagreed somewhat on the beginning.
Honestly, I don't even remember what I said about it. This is weird. I remember having a lot of strong opinions, and I was trying to remember. I don't remember what my reaction was to it at first.
Well, I know you said at first it did feel slow, and we both
Yeah.
were very annoyed by the film grain, which
Yeah, that
the
was weird.
artificial film grain and scratches. I get what Tarantino was going for because this was made for Grindhouse, which is a joint project he did with Robert Rodriguez, where they just made two films, and they're supposed to be reminiscent of the Grindhouse era of cinema. But it felt really just pointless and annoying. A lot of the time, it felt distracting,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning where I wasn't super engaged.
And
And
let it be known, he did remove the film grain when he sent it out to film festivals.
yeah, so that should tell you everything you need to know about it. If you can find a version of it without the film grain, definitely watch that version. Um, because that's going to be a better experience, even if it's marginal.
Although I did like when it was removed, I thought it was pretty expressive. And like
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of the
true.
time, it would stop when the genre that he's sort of mocking a bit. Not
Hmm.
mocking. Obviously, it's in like a sort of endearing way, but
Yeah,
the
it's
genre
kind of
he's
just.
playing with, when he starts to subvert it a bit and take a
Mhm.
bit of a turn to the crazy story Death
It
Proof ends up becoming, it kind of just disappears, and I do like that.
Yeah, and which I was not feeling the movie at all until the crazy reveal. I started off. I My letterbox review literally says I started off this film at a 2.5, and then when the reveal happens, it's like, okay, I'm immediately engaged. I'm immediately, you know, tuned into this. I care now, and I want to see where this is going. And then it slowed down a little bit, introducing the new set of characters, but I started to like them. They engaged with me a lot more than the other characters. I felt more of a connection to them. They didn't feel just like the characters that from movies that he's trying to parody, I'll say, where they're very one note meat bags that just exist to get killed. These characters felt more fleshed out, but also reminiscent of those stereotypes from those movies he's trying to parody,
Well,
which
I
was
think
great. It was a great subversion.
there's a really unique difference between the stories and the
Yes.
first and the last one. And I think the first does a really good job of setting the movie up in that way, and then introducing Kurt Russell as this sort of like meta character where
Yeah.
it's so weird. He's inserted as someone who feels like happy to be in the film, as if like his character knows the environment he's in. He's like, dude, I can go off. I got some pointless characters I can kill off here. Like it's like a playground for him. It's really funny.
Yeah. Well, he literally says in the second one, um, which in the second one they do a role reversal
Yeah.
where Kurt Russell does try to like run them off the road and kill them with his car, but he ends up not succeeding. So they go and chase him, and he says during it, he literally says, "Oh, it was just a game. I was just playing a game."
Yeah, he gets out of the car and he says that was fun. After
Yeah.
he tries to hit them, he gets out like not understanding that they could be mad. Obviously like they're armed and they shoot at him. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, he just gets out after he like spins out and he's like, "Hey, that was good fun."
yeah, it's so self-aware. Most of the film is so self-aware, and it's so charming and endearing.
And
And I
there
did
was a
not expect that at all.
oh yeah, I mean Kurt Russell gives a great performance. That
Well,
definitely
yeah,
adds to
Kurt
it.
Russell is just a very energetic guy, and he brings a lot of charisma and character to movies when he's in them.
And something I love about the second part is that continuing with the sort of meta character there, he almost seems frustrated that he doesn't get to like play God in this little universe.
Yeah.
Like he goes
It,
after them, and when it stops being a game, he's just so upset. It's not like
yeah.
he becomes scared a bit. It kind of turns into like a parody of the character because all of a sudden he's this like scared little bitch.
Yeah, he's crying. He's
Yeah, and
super afraid. He's terrified.
it's so
And
funny
it's
because he's like throwing a tantrum over how he doesn't just
yeah,
get to do whatever he wants.
he throws like a literal toddler tantrum, and it's great. I This is probably Tarantino's funniest movie.
Oh
Like
yeah,
this is straight
come
up just a black comedy,
yeah.
and it's great. I I'm so shocked by how surprised I got from this.
I mean,
I
the first example of like a really funny moment is in the first part where he I mean, not just black comedy. The first really funny part is the editing when he crashes into the girls
Yeah,
for the first time,
yes.
and their limbs are just repeatedly like thrown about over and over. He just comes
Yeah,
repeats the shots. It's so good.
it repeats the shots for each girl to show each one of how their limbs were torn apart and thrown out of the car.
Yeah. And earlier than that, there's another great example of black comedy where he just kind of tells the character like, "Well, you got in the wrong car," and just like throws her into the
Yeah.
what do you call the front of the car, and
Mhm.
she's on the side that has like no support.
Yeah, and I love how he sets it up too, because he's like, this car is completely death
Oh
proof.
yeah.
And then when she's dead and everything after he's knocked her about a bunch, he says, "Well, you weren't on the side that was death proof."
It's so funny.
And it's like a wink and a nod at the camera, because I think he literally does look at the camera. I don't know if he winks. If he winked, it's even better. But yeah, you know, I'm again, I am very surprised by how great this was, because we'll both just say we went into this wanting to hate it. We really didn't
It's
want.
more that I expected it just to be like boring, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely did not want to like it, because you know there's kind of this negative association with Tarantino of being like a very film bro director. And even though I like all of his movies, I find a lot of the time he can be very pretentious and exaggerated as a person.
Yeah, he definitely definitely thinks he's hot shit.
Yeah, and when he talks about certain topics like um digital being like the death of cinema, like he'll say digital is the death of cinema. Cinema itself is going to be dead. And it's kind of like that's that's a real exaggeration there.
Yeah.
You're being really hyperbolic. But despite all odds, this movie ended up being a 4 for me. And it's like a good mid-tier 4. It's pretty high up there in my top 250.
Yeah. Really
I
fun experience.
Yeah, and I as much as I'm kind of dreading a rewatch because of the moments I don't like in the beginning where it kind of feels like it drags for me, I do want to rewatch it, especially to see the other edit that we haven't seen. It definitely seems like it'll be fun again, even if the impact of the reveal is not going to be the same.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed the beginning more because I kind of recognized what he was doing uh, pretty early, so I
Yeah,
appreciated the beginning a bit more, even if the dialogue wasn't super engaging. Like all the performances were kind of giveaways, and that they were so stupid.
yeah.
They were so probably intentionally boring and shallow.
It's also funny because in the second half, especially, two of the actresses he picked, Rosario Dawson and I forgot the other girl's name, but she's in Final Destination 3 and a few other horror movies that are just kind of like schlocky, and it was a pretty perfect casting um, in a meta aspect because like audiences will be like, "Hey, I recognize her from this other schlocky horror film," and I will definitely say I probably didn't like the beginning as much because it took me about halfway through the beginning to really understand what was going on because you got it definitely at the beginning, but me, I didn't really see where it was going until Kurt Russell's character really
Oh
was
yeah,
first introduced. When it was first introduced, it's kind of like, okay, I see where this is going now. I
yeah.
see kind of where this is going.
See,
But before that,
I'm sorry. I just realized through picturing like the actors, um, I just remember that Rosario Dawson is in Clerks too, and that's really funny to me because that movie is bad, and she is bad in that movie.
yeah,
She
I
plays
don't.
like a similarly like really annoying and boring role as the kind she's doing in Death Proof, but it's funny because they're despite being similar, they're just the complete opposite where one is
Their
self-aware.
execution, their execution is really the thing
Yeah.
there. I don't love Rosario Dawson. I don't think I've really enjoyed, except for this movie, of course, any movie she's really been in. And she was also in The Mandalorian as
Well,
Ahsoka, and I
she was in
found her.
Sorry to Bother You.
Eh. Oh yeah, she was in Sorry to Bother You,
Yeah.
wasn't she? See, I don't even. I couldn't even remember that she was in there, so I guess I didn't love her performance. But you know, I think the casting was really on point here. It definitely gave me that feel of like throwaway characters, and um, it feels like the real casting of what a movie that he's parroting would do. Like a shitty B flick horror film that's all like about exploitation.
I just want to say I'm fucking with you, by the way. She does like a voice in an elevator and Sorry to Bother You.
I hate you. Why would you gaslight me like this?
I don't know, I thought it'd be
I
funny.
I've been gaslight lit twice this week already. This is not a good
What
track
was the
record.
first?
I guess the first funny story for the podcast, but the first is for over a year now, I've smelt like a manure smell in my room randomly, and I thought it was the pipes because we had a pipe blowout back in the summer, and that would make a shit smell, and I thought it was just the pipes acting up again, and I find out Sunday that no, my parents have been playing a prank on me all this year where they have been spraying through the vent that connects our rooms this fucking spray that creates a manure smell. And they've
Are
had
you
everybody who's come
serious?
to the house. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. And they've had everybody who's come to the house get in on it and try to like probe me into asking, "Oh, what's that smell?" and trying to get me to get to the answer, and I just never got to it. I
That's
it really
insane.
fucked with me, and I was I was just not ready for it. I was just not
That's
ready
so
for it.
crazy.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's just what goes on in my house. But back to Death Proof because uh, much like that story, Death Proof is a very funny film,
It
and I
really is.
love it.
Dude, I love the ending too. It's so silly. It almost has like the campy nature as like Charlie's Angels. I don't know if you've seen that. Just
I have
like
not seen Charlie's
just
Angels, but
the three powerful women just beating the shit out of dudes.
yeah, the ending is
And they're so like charismatic in it too. Like
I
it's
also
oh
I
my
think it
god.
literally I think it ends with like a still of them clapping or not clapping, high fiving each other while they're kicking the shit out of him on the ground, if I remember correctly. And that's just perfect.
Oh my god. And
It's
the
just,
montage of him just getting completely beaten is so funny. Just all the different angles of them messing him up.
yeah, and he cowers in such fear, and it's like as we were saying, it's a complete role reversal and a complete 180 for his character because his character starts off as kind of like, oh, I know I'm in a movie, I'm playing God with this little setting, and then he just turns into a scared little boy, and it's really fun. It's really great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's it's a very meta film. It understands what it is, what it's trying to do, and it does it really well. Even if I found the beginning to be pretty slow, like I think that's my main argument against the film. Otherwise, it's just kind of like I really enjoyed myself a lot. Well, you gave it a 4 as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This was really something.
One more comment.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the driving in this.
Yeah, the
It's so
driving was
much
really
fun.
great. Yeah, I mean, you were so inspired about it that when you took me home in the morning, you almost killed me. But
Yeah.
yeah, but the driving is really great. And to go back to reference our first episode when we talked about Drive, the driving was, good in that, I guess. But this really understands how to shoot driving in an engaging way, and especially brings on tension. Like when she's on the hood of the car
Oh yeah.
and they're driving around and then he's trying to fucking off-road them. That was really tense. I had no idea what was going to happen.
It
I didn't
definitely
know if she was going to
didn't
die or
overstay its welcome. Wasn't too short. It was great.
yeah, yeah, you got us, Tarantino. You made us think that this was going to be shit and then it just wasn't. It was great. He really pulled a fast one on us. And if I have to give him credit for anything, I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah. Well,
But
I think we've exhausted what we had to say about Death
yeah,
Proof.
I have nothing else really to say without repeating myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a really good movie. Probably a mid-tier Tarantino for me,
Mm.
and definitely recommend it.
It's pretty high tier one for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of surprising. Uh, but yeah, I gotta say, how do you feel about each film individually? Like, let's kind of rank
Uh,
which one's better. I think Death Proof is my favorite out of the three. Or, well, I guess I should say four, but I'm kind of counting Kill Bill as one.
okay.
What do you?
I'm not even sure. I hadn't even like thought about this. You go first, man. You go first.
Yeah, okay. So I definitely gotta say Death Proof is my favorite of the bunch. Death Proof is done really, really well, and it's a pretty mid-tier four for me. Um, I would say next Kill Bill as a series, but specifically Kill Bill 1 over Kill Bill 2. I definitely had more fun with Kill Bill 1 than I did um, Godzi- Godzilla versus Kong and Kill Bill Volume 2. But with Kill Bill Volume 2, I can't decide if I had more fun with Godzilla versus Kong or Kill Bill 2. Because they're both a 3 for me. But I think I'm going to say Godzilla versus Kong was the weakest. Just because it is really just dumb fun and there isn't much else to it. But with Kill Bill Volume 2, when it's really strong, it's really, really, really up there. And probably on par with the first one. But I just think those moments are not in it enough.
Fair enough. Um, I'm thinking, I'm thinking Kill Bill was my favorite.
Really? That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, well, Kill Bill might be like my second favorite Tarantino film now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right under Django. There's quite a big jump between Django and the other films. It's a five and then a bunch of fours. So
Yeah. I don't have a
almost
single five from
entirely fours
Tarantino.
actually. I have one 3.5 from him, which is Jackie Brown.
Hmm.
The rest are fours besides Django. So I think, yeah, Kill Bill's a really strong four. One of the best IMO.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, really,
That's kind of
really,
surprising.
just a really cool movie, dude. It's just a fucking badass movie.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool, and I like it a lot. I just looked at my top 250, and Death Proof and Kill Bill are two places away from each other, with Death Proof being ahead, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think we both have very different perspectives on Tarantino, considering like I don't have anything under a 4 for him, but I don't have a single 5. But I do have, I think, 4.5s from him,
I am so
with all of them
conflicted.
pretty weak, except for Django and Reservoir Dogs.
Dude, I want to hate Tarantino. You have no idea.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, I feel the same way, but it's kind of hard to, considering his filmography. You know, he does make really good films, um, and it's really hard to question that.
Yeah, I just don't
But
like him as a person.
yeah, I agree. I agree totally.
And it makes me it's more like I don't like his filmography as a whole. And it's
Hmm.
weird because a lot of auteurs they
Hmm.
mention how like even Hitchcock, just like the great first like auteur, he mentioned that he feels like he should have done more with his filmography,
Yeah.
and he kind of wishes he branched out sometimes. But you know, he stuck with what the studios wanted, what people wanted, what he was good at. And it's weird because like Tarantino is just so unapologetically stylized in his films. And I don't see him branching out. He seems to just want to finish while he still has that grasp of his style
Yeah.
before it becomes like a parody of himself, I guess, in his old age.
Yeah, cuz I mean, considering that it's really likely that he might have a Star Trek film as is one of his last, I can see that a lot.
Mm.
Since he plans to do what, 2 or 3 more movies,
I think a
right?
couple more,
Yeah, something like that.
maybe three.
Um, which is kind of surprising considering how small his filmography is and how big of a director he is.
Yeah. Well,
And
I get it. I respect I respect what he wants to do, but like I don't know. I almost can't believe that he's just gonna stop just to preserve his
yeah,
legacy. Like,
it is quitting while you're ahead, you know.
which I don't. I don't know a single filmmaker that's done that. At least just for the purpose of preserving legacy. I mean, like
Yeah.
Scorsese is aware that he's past his prime probably, and that he
Yeah, but he's mostly stopping because of age. Tarantino is not at that age yet.
yeah,
He's old, but he's not that old.
he's just saying, there's like a peak age, and he doesn't know where it is, but he doesn't want to bring it too far, so he's limiting himself at some random number, and I think that's fine. And by the time he's done with them, he'll be around that age
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
where you're not making your best stuff necessarily.
Hmm.
I mean, you never know. It depends on what stuff you make, but I think for his films, he'll probably have less of a grasp as he gets older.
Yeah, I
But like,
can't see him going up or
yeah.
really making too many more things that are as good as his other works.
But what's weird to me is like Scorsese's aware of his age, but at the end of the day, it's just he loves filmmaking, and I don't see how you would just not because it's not about your career, it's just your love for cinema. Like how could you throw that away?
Yeah,
That's so bizarre to me. You have an opportunity to make films basically until the day you die, and he's pretty much
not taking
saying,
it,
yeah, he's pretty much saying, I think I'm done now.
which is crazy,
And
especially
I
with
feel like
how
you could,
small it is. Because like Scorsese has a
yeah.
really large
Oh
filmography.
yeah, if he
Scorsese's
stopped,
like,
no one would be disappointed.
yeah,
A lot of movies
he has
though.
a very accomplished and good filmography. But Tarantino, it's like 10 movies.
Yeah,
That's nothing in comparison.
it's really bizarre.
It is very bizarre.
You would think he might take that time to experiment a bit and branch off from his style, but I
Yeah,
don't think he. That's all he knows how. Just
yeah, probably not.
borrows from other films.
Yeah,
He's not a
he's
very
probably
high
stuck in a
concept
rut.
filmmaker.
He's probably stuck in some kind of rut that he doesn't know how to get out of and
He has
doesn't
sort
really
of
want to put
trapped
the effort.
himself in his style,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
definitely is just borrowing from other films 100%.
I think if he branched out from his style, his fans would be very upset.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They they would probably
If he
not
made a
enjoy it
film that
as much.
didn't inject that same kind of energy into the audience, definitely a worse response.
Yes, yes. Which I guess kind of plays into why Death Proof is his lowest rated one,
Mm.
since it's not a completely like his style and doesn't give the same energy at least for large chunks.
And without understanding at least some context, I don't think it's as enjoyable. I
Yes.
think experiencing it in the same way you would at other Tarantino films is just not as entertaining.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Um, anyway, so yeah, Kill Bill, Death Proof, obviously Volume Two. I still liked Kill Bill Volume Two. I generally liked even the parts that you didn't like.
Hmm.
Not gonna get too much into that, just 'cause, honestly, it's not worth talking too much about again.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla. Love Godzilla as a character, but wasn't a
Yeah.
great movie. I really hate Millie Bobby Brown with a passion.
I do too. I She's the worst part about Stranger Things, and
It's the
she's
worst
just
part
not a
about
very good
everything she's in.
actor.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've liked a single thing she's really been in, at least her part. But yeah, I think on that note, we'll wrap up, and we'd like to thank you again for tuning in. We're going to try to get episodes weekly out. I know it's been a little over a week since the last episode, but we just had some problems with scheduling this episode.
God, weekly is hard.
Weekly is pretty tough,
I can't
but
just watch movies whenever.
Hopefully in the summer it'll be a lot easier.
It'll be so much easier.
Yeah. But on that note, next week don't expect an episode just because this week we're not able to do a movie night. But we'll probably be able to do one next week and hopefully get an episode out sometime between next week and then the week after. But yeah, thank you once again. This has been the Q, and we hope to see you next time.
Yeah, but God, my head hurts.